Hi, Brian Benedus coming to you again. Today is Tuesday, October 4th, I believe. I just got done reading the chapter The Wedding, and now we get into chapter 12, titled The Children. I got you a brand new cover here so you can see it. By all means, please purchase your book. Profits go to, as I mentioned, the Bradley Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Frederick Douglass. Back when my son Michael played Little League Baseball, he would be so excited to play that he would have his uniform on and be ready to go hours before the game. Reminded me a little of me. I've always loved baseball. He was a terrific youth ball player too, and at just 10 years old he would often face off against kids as old as 12. 2 years might not sound like much of an age difference, but at that stage of physical development, it very much is. Especially when that 12-year-old big kid is throwing a baseball at you at 65 miles per hour from 46 feet away. Anyone who has ever coached or watched baseball at this level would swear that some of those 12-year-olds look like they had to be at least 18. He was a good, hard-working player and deserved to be playing in the upper age group with these older kids. His mom and I were very proud. But in just his second game, one of those big kids on the mound unleashed a 65-mile-an-hour fastball that hit him square in the back. I cringed and felt his pain, as every parent can attest, more than he did. Bravely, he trotted down to first base, tears streaming down his face. We checked him over, and other than a bit of red mark, thankfully, he wasn't hurt at all. It turned out to be just a glancing blow. But as someone who suffers from anxiety and panic attacks, I had a unique insight into where my son's tears might be coming from. I worried he would have a problem the next time he batted. No one knows more than I how pain can manifest itself as both physical and mental entity. A few innings later, he was waiting on deck to bat again, but he wasn't wearing a helmet, and he didn't have a bat in his hands. I could read the concern on his face. I walked over to him from where I was coaching near first base and asked, "So, Mike, are you going to hit?" He didn't answer. He looked up at me, his tears returned. He was afraid of getting hurt again, and understandably so. But I sensed his tears were coming from elsewhere, too. The embarrassment of running away and the guilt for having let me, his friends, and his teammates down. In a small way, this is what anxiety and panic is all about. It's about taking a single, small fear and letting it grow and embed itself, developing into something bigger that becomes difficult to control. I knew he was not going to step back into the batter's box on his own. "Look," I said, as a dad still struggling to find his own tools to deal with anxiety. "If you don't want to bat anymore, that's okay. Everyone will understand. But I also know that when you get home, later, you'll be more upset. You'll be angry at yourself, and it will hurt even worse. Trust me." I could see him rolling my comments over in his mind. He was torn. Give in to the fear and go home, or step up to the plate and face it. I needed to give him a tool to guide him through this. I have an idea. What if you step to the plate to hit, but you just don't swing? Stand in the batter's box with your bat on your shoulder and let the pitcher throw it by you. Just go through the motions. No pressure. And do you know what? If you try it, I think you'll feel better about yourself later. My son put on his helmet and stepped into the box. He trusted me, but I'm not sure how much he believed me, and I could see his hands were trembling. The big pitcher wound up and threw a fastball right by him for a strike as he lunged backwards. He took a deep breath, squeezed the bat a little tighter, and stepped back for the second pitch. This time he didn't budge away when it flew by. Another fastball, strike two. I swear I could see the relief melt off of him. Everyone has their own little story about facing a fear, like the old maxim about falling off a horse and getting right back on. Nipping a fear in the bud, head on, when it is small and manageable, before it's allowed to germinate, is a great life lesson. When the pitcher's third pitch reached the plate, Mike swung and ripped a double to left field. His fear was gone. He was ecstatic. Compare that feeling to the feeling he would have felt sitting at home in a self-destructive cloud of fear and anger, guilt and embarrassment. To this day, while playing college ball, after he gets a hit, he'll look at me in the stands and touch his heart, and I'll touch mine right back at him as I did that day. My daughter Jen was an exceptional youth soccer player, but very shy. Could she be like me too? The league's coaches were always on the lookout for the better, smarter players to help serve as game referees, and when she was asked, she was flattered and quite excited to try it. But when we arrived at the field for her first game as an official, the reality set in that she would be overseeing girls 2 or 3 years older than she was, including many of her friends. Here she was, all dressed in her yellow uniform and ready to go to work, even with her own brand of new whistle dangling around her neck. Yet she was starting to cry as we walked together towards the field. "I'm so afraid," she confided. So being the kind of father who was too afraid to ride an elevator or drive over a bridge, I had to find some tool or technique to help guide her through this. "Listen," I began, "you know more about soccer than anyone else on the field. That's what they ask you to do. You know you can do this. What if I make a bad call? What if my friends hate me? What if?" What if? Where have I heard that before? "What if," I answered, "you just go out on the field and run around? Don't think of yourself as being in charge. Just make believe you are the one of the players. Let the other referee make all the calls. I'll bet that after you run around a little bit, you'll feel more comfortable. In fact, don't feel like you need to blow the whistle today at all." She was still nervous, but it helped by knowing she had my support. I believe she felt most at home on the soccer field, and I think for her, it was a haven where she felt comfortable and safe. And just as I had hoped and expected, the game started, and after a few minutes, Jen took control. She did a great job. Jen played in college, and when she scored, I always touched my heart. That smile, no matter at 10 or 20, will never leave me. Everyone wants their children to grow up to be strong, confident, and successful. But when teens don't have the tools to fix their own problems, they will often turn to alcohol and drugs. It's so much harder to learn problem solving later in life. For me, agoraphobia has been an indescribable curse, but sometimes my experiences with it provide a rare blessing when it allows me to teach my kids how to deal with problems without fighting them. Oh, I gotta show you little pictures of my kids when they were young. There's my little son when he was in Little League. Seems like years and years and years ago, which it was. And there's my daughter playing soccer. That's all the bragging I'll do as a dad. Very important chapter very important chapter in today's world, probably years ago also. But I was lucky enough to do a talk at Bradley Hospital for the parents of kids that have either have gone through their program. Excuse me, my phone was ringing in the office. I forgot to hit Do Not Disturb. Have gone through the program, are still going through the program, and or have graduated from the program. And it was a very unique experience. I talked about it in one of my YouTube videos, so I won't go on and on about it. But it was a lot about kids and about being a parent today and what we know. Just like years ago when I didn't know what it was and how I used to talk to myself. I used to talk to myself in a horrible, horrible way. What's wrong with you? Deal with it. Come on, what the hell's the matter with you? I see so many parents. My kids, I'm going to use my kids as the template of what I'm trying to convey. It's the only thing I know how to do because obviously I know my kids. But I'm not going to sound like one of those parents. This is a teaching moment from agoraphobia's point of view. I could have very easily said to my son, "Mike, don't be a wimp. Get in the box. If you get hit, you'll be fine." I could have done that. I could have been one of those parents. And you know what? He might have been able to do it. And he might have even gotten a hit. And he might have. The thing that is necessary for you to understand at a very young age, and if you listen to my books and my tapes and my YouTube videos and everything I preach, when did this start? At a very young age. And that's when the roots start. A support system is what I needed when I was young. I did not have that. I'm not blaming my parents because I never told them. My father and mother were workers. They worked a lot. They weren't involved with every emotion like we are today. A lot of us are involved in every pitch, every swing, every golf swing, every tennis swing, every practice. Everything they do, we're involved with. Hockey, everything. We see, we learn, and we try and teach. The thing we need to do as parents is to teach them that it's okay. It's okay to fail, but in a different sense, feeling-wise. It's okay to be fearful. My book launch party was the very first time my daughter, at 25 years old, ever saw the fear that she saw that day when I spoke to over 200 people. And I explained how afraid I was. And I used my healing thought process in my book to get through that. But the biggest thing she got out of that at 25 years old is knowing it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be a little apprehensive of what you're doing. It's not okay to run away from it. Because as I mentioned in my book launch, I am scared to death, but I'm not going anywhere. But it's easy to do it. It's easier to do at 55 when you don't have the necessary tools and the experiences to understand that. As a parent or somebody that knows somebody that's going through this, the words to use are, it's okay to feel that way. This is what we're going to do to manage it. Not to feel it, not to deal with it, not to get through it, to manage it. Because those words mean something. Okay, so if that doesn't work, then I'm really screwed up. No, then we try something else. We need to find what it is to manage it. In the case of my son, he was concerned about the physical aspect of getting hit again. But in his mind, as a kid playing Little League, it's, what if I get hit in the head this time? What if it's faster? Notice those two words, what if? My out was, don't swing the bat. Stand there and watch the ball go by. I gave him a way out, but also a tool to utilize, to relax, to get to a different level, to where he's comfortable in an uncomfortable situation so that he can act. So what he did, when he was comfortable, he swung the bat, got a double, and it's a true story. I hate saying that because they're all true. And he played college, and we still did that. And he'd find me. He knew where I was, and I was away. I was always down the left field side of the field, and he knew where I was. Whether it was a strikeout, an error, or a great thing that happened, he always knew I was there, and he always knew I had his back. And that was very important. My daughter, the same thing. She would play soccer quite a ways from me, 6 hours away. I went to every game because I loved it, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. But the same thing, touched my heart after every goal, every good thing, and it was bad. We had conversations. If she missed a penalty kick, if she didn't play well, whatever it was. But it was okay to fail. And let's try this. Let's manage the anxiety this way. Anytime you fail as an adult, as a teenager, as a kid, as a little kid, or whatever it might be, you can always make it worse by thinking, what if? What if I'm not good at that? What if I'm not good at that? What if I'm never going to be? And it just keeps going and going and going. So, this chapter about the children is very near and dear to me. And I use my kids as a template. Hopefully you do also, when I teach people and have talks about how to deal with their kids. You know, the days of going, that's fine. But I can guarantee you, if you know people that have done that, look at their kids today. There might be a few that are okay. But I guarantee you, alcohol or drugs are involved. And if they're not involved, they're not in a good place. They need to have the support of knowing it's okay to fail. You can be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Deal with it, manage it. Those are okay. I could say habit. He's in the habit of doing this. Or what a good habit to have. Habit is a two-faced monster, okay? A habit can be a good thing, a habit can be a bad thing. Good habits, bad habits. When you say deal with it, there's two ways to look at that. Deal with it. Okay, as a kid, you're like, oh man, I must be wimpy. I must not be as good at them. All of a sudden, there go the roots and the tentacles start to grow. The what ifs, the doubts, the fears, or you say, here's how we're going to deal with it. Now you're giving them a tool. So that's the way you word things is very, very important. So once again, I hope that helped a little bit. And if you've heard my talks, I talk a lot about that. I have a talk coming up, and it's going to be a lot about that because it's kids playing football and so on and so forth. So thank you again for listening. We kept this under 16 minutes, so I'm happy. And once again, go to my YouTube channel, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. Have a great day, and I'll come back to you soon. Take care.